Welcome back to the Forensics Detailing channel. Today we're going to be talking about waxes and their effect on gloss.
Guess that I am wrong or how we're close now. I've been making my amends. Come and see. Where have you been off to now? Wait for me, dear beloved, lend me light as I wander off into the night, or I won't be found, or I won't be found.
So first up, whenever we're talking about gloss and looking at gloss, it's good to talk about what gloss is. Now, you can get these machines, these gloss meter machines that I first come across, you know, at the Autoglim lab that they were using to kind of measure the gloss effect of products. Now, first up, what these machines do is they shine a light with a certain intensity at a certain angle down on the surface. And that light obviously bounces back off the surface and then gets picked up in a receiver. And then, excuse me, the machine is able to look at the intensity of the reflected light versus the intensity of the light that it projected and give you a reading of gloss in units based on that. So gloss is typically measured in units called GUs, gloss units, starting from 0, so that's a material with no reflection if you like, going up to an infinite amount. But now when we're working with car clear coats, the typical range of gloss that you're going to see is probably something down from like maybe as little as 5 for a very low pore oxidized paintwork finished, all the way up to a sort of theoretical, not theoretical, a practical maximum of around about 100 units of gloss. I've never taken a reading that's been higher than 100 units of gloss, and I've never so far been able to get a surface shiny enough to give me more than 100 units of gloss. So it gives you a nice sort of like fixed margin of understanding. Okay, so gloss typically is broken down into three categories for these machines. Low gloss, which is 0 to 20 GU units. Medium gloss, 20 up to 80 GUs. And then high gloss, 80 GUs and above. Depending on the level of gloss on the surface you're testing, there will be a machine or an angle of reflection that you want to use that best suits that level of gloss. So you can get 3 different variants of the machines: the low gloss ones, the medium gloss ones, or the high gloss ones, that all use different angles to be more accurate within the range that you're measuring. Or you can get the tri-band ones, which is what Autoglim had, which you can adjust for the gloss that you're measuring. So obviously the tri-band ones are the ones you want to get. This is a 60-degree medium gloss one, so it's ideal at measuring gloss levels between 20 GU and 80 GU, but it's still useful for looking at high gloss, although in an ideal world you'd have a tri-band one to get more accurate readings above 80 GU. What else do you need to know about these machines? One, they're designed to be used on flat surfaces, which is a bit of a downer. So they have a plastic kind of bottom section there's no give on it, there's no foam, so these are not really to be used on car panels where there's curves, because you're not going to get an accurate surface to reflect the light off if it's curved, okay? And the machine won't sit level on that particular surface, so you need really to use these, you need to get these test panels, unfortunately, that are flat. You can put them on a car panel and have a look and it will give you an indication, but the accuracy isn't there if you're trying to do multiple readings because of what I've just said about it not being able to sit flush on that particular panel. The other things are, there are some inaccuracies with the readings. You need to calibrate them properly before you use them, and obviously if you're measuring one particular reading in one place, you want to mark off the machine so you can get it in an accurate place. You also want to take lots of readings to try and compensate for any kind of factors that could affect the accuracy of the reading. So as always, when you're testing stuff, taking lots of reading and using averages is really important. So next I want to move on to the subject matter of this video: can a wax reduce gloss? So from the moment when I got my test panels and my gloss meter over the last kind of month, I've been playing around doing so many tests because it allows me to look at things that I hadn't been able to measure kind of before. And one of the things I was looking at was the effect of performance of waxes when you allow them to cure on a panel for a significant amount of time, maybe 10-20 minutes, varying the time, versus putting them straight onto the panel and buffing them off. And I was doing this test really purely to look at how much extra performance leaving the wax on the panel longer provides. And the answer to that, by the way, which has nothing to do with this video, is it makes a hell of a difference in terms of performance. I mean a hell of a difference. You put a wax on a panel, excuse me, doesn't matter what it is, buff it straight off, you seriously compromise the performance of that wax, because the wax hasn't had a chance to for the solvent system to vaporize and the wax to actually stick down to the panel. So you're putting it on and basically buffing a hell of a lot of it off in comparison to what happens when you allow the solvent system to vaporize, the wax to harden, and then when you go back to buff it off, you leave a lot more wax on the panel, okay? And so that's what I was doing. I was putting waxes on half of the panel, buffing them off, putting another wax on the other, well, the same wax on the other half, leaving it 10 minutes, leaving it 20 minutes, leaving it half an hour, depending on the test, you know, they've got loads of test panels, then buffing it off, leaving them outside and testing how all of the performance things tail off, how the gloss tails off over time, and how all the kind of hydrophobic characteristics tail off over time. And I was noticing it was all pretty obvious. If you put the wax on and buff it straight off, you get very little protection. You'll be lucky to get 2 washes out of 2 weeks. So if I had the thing sitting on the roof there where I test them for 2 weeks and I washed them once a week, after 2 weeks of wax on, wax off, the protection's virtually gone and it looks virtually like an unprotected panel with all the water sheeting and water behaviour and all that. But where I discovered this thing about wax lowering glosses was when I started taking the gloss meter readings for this particular test. Now these panels, when they came back from the body shop, were kicking out around 97 units of gloss, which is really, really high. You know, you're going to struggle to get that higher by refining it and polishing it, although you can probably get a couple, you can probably wring a couple more units of gloss out of it, depending on how desperate you are and how much time you've got. We'll do another video on that, seeing how we can actually max that out and where we can get it to, but that's something else. Anyway, what was I saying? So the panels arrive with 97 units of gloss on them roughly, and that's pretty consistent across all of the test panels. What I noticed was when I put a wax product on, it's a simple wax product, and it doesn't matter which product you use, this carries across to any wax. The wax that I put on and wipe straight off, the 97 gloss unit readings weren't compromised. So they were about 97 before I put the wax on, and after I take the readings, they're all about 97. So the wax wasn't able to add any significant or measurable amount of gloss, even though we're getting into the area where the machine isn't that accurate, but the machine couldn't get any extra measurable amount of gloss when you put the wax on and wipe it straight off. However, the sides where I allowed the wax to cure, they dropped about 2 units of gloss. And the first time I saw that, I thought, I didn't understand that. I was just like, oh, that's a bit weird. And I repeated the test lots of times, and every time I was losing gloss, you know, somewhere between 1 and 3 units, usually around about 2 units of gloss with these high gloss panels. So in short, I was seeing something that when you put on wax and you allow it to cure and harden, you're putting a much thicker layer of wax on, you'll get much longer protection. But the downsides of that, from what I was seeing, is that on very high gloss finishes, that actually lowers the gloss of the surface you're putting the wax on, and I didn't know that was possible. So the next thing I want to try and talk about or answer is the question of how much gloss does a wax add? And you see that question being asked a fair old amount. First thing to understand is there is no set amount of gloss. So if you buy wax product X, it's not going to be able to deliver you 30 units of gloss to your car. And if you get a different wax, that one might do 31 units. You know, it doesn't work like that. The answer to how much gloss that a wax can add does depend on the product, but the number one factor is how glossy the surface is that you're applying it to. On low gloss surfaces, so a very low gloss car might be kicking out like 20 to 30 units of gloss. You put a good wax on that, you could effectively double the amount of gloss, up to 60 units of gloss, something like that. That's what I saw in the auto glint testing. Now as the gloss increases on that panel, or any test panel, so if we got the gloss up to say 60 or 70, the amount of gloss that you're going to get back from the wax is going to drop down, okay? So you could say 20 to 40 units of gloss on your panel. A good wax will be able to give you maybe 20 to 30 units back. A bad one might not give you any. I've seen data to back that up as well, but we won't go into that. A medium gloss panel, say 40 to 60, the amount you get back from a good wax might be as little as 10 to 15. Then when you get from 60 to 80, you might be at 5 to 10. When you get to 80 plus, somewhere around 5. Now when you start getting over 90 to 100, you get the stage where some waxes, in fact a lot of waxes won't be able to give you any gloss or small amounts of gloss if it's closer to 90. And what I was seeing at 97 is when I was applying the waxes and letting them really cure. You know, you get that opaque kind of hazy wax going on and buffing them off. That was causing the amount of gloss to drop by a couple of units on high gloss surfaces. And I wasn't necessarily expecting that, so just interested. It's obviously got something to do with the fact that the high gloss finish, you know, the fresh clear coat on this particular test panel is a glossier thing than a high gloss finish with a coat of wax over it. So either way, there's not that much difference, but it was interesting to see that the gloss went down. So I'd be interested on if there's anyone else out there crazy enough to have test panels or have any thoughts on all this sort of stuff that can back up or provide some other insight on all of this sort of stuff, because this is like I say, I've only had all this gear for about a month, so all this stuff I'm observing is all kind of new to me as well. So finally I said I'd do a quick update on the waxes. So the latest wax blend is the Forensic Formula 302. So I've gone, it's kind of quite a hard, grainy Nuba blend, and I'm trying all the way through making these waxes. I realise now I've been like going full Rambo mode with trying to get this durability maxed out on the wax, and perhaps to try and do that I've been overusing or using ingredients at too high volumes or too high concentrations, which has been ruining the waxes. To try and sort of make some wax that will last 10 years, you know, it's never going to happen. So where I am now is just really trying to make a wax which can match the durability of the products that I kind of like. Because I think if you want really long-term durability for a sealant, you know, or something like that, you're going to turn to a sealant or a ceramic coating, and a paste wax is never going to be able to match that. And the ones that can provide you with long durability are not doing it through the waxes, okay? They're doing it through other kind of mechanisms. So really, if you're a fan of waxes and you like them, then they have to kind of stick to what they're good at, and that is adding the gloss and being nice to use on the paintwork. So that's kind of where I've gone back to with the wax, but still using these components in there to increase the durability and hydrophobic characteristics, because that's what it's obvious to me, that's what people love. They love like putting them on and then seeing all the beading on their car, because it gives them a measure of how strong the protection is, you know. When it stops beading and you loses all its water kind of repellency, then the product's dead as far as people are concerned. So that's where I've been trying to go with the Forensic Formula. I'm now happy with the appearance of the wax, how the wax applies, how long the wax lasts, all of the good things on application, the amount of gloss it gives. It can keep up with some expensive waxes and good durability waxes, so I'm quite impressed with it. I've got one problem with it now though, and it's gone back to a basic problem, and it's made me realise, and I've had this thought in the back of my mind since I've been doing this wax stuff for a fair old amount of time now, and I am fast coming to the conclusion, I need to speak to some people about this, that beeswax in these blends is not a good thing. And there's a number of reasons why I don't think it's a good thing. It does some good things. It can soften the blend out for sure, but the beeswax in the blend can do some bad things. Even if you're using a high quality, pure BP, you know, a standard of wax that doesn't have all this crud in it, you know, a processed, refined beeswax, and typically a nice one that's pale is usually a good quality one. That's what I've learned. But I just still have some concerns over beeswax, to the point where I'm probably looking to take it out of the blend completely. So that's where we are with the waxes. All going good. It's going to take a little bit of time to get something half decent. So at the moment it's just all fun and games. So that's what we've been doing on the Forensics Detailing channel for a while, messing around with waxes, doing lots of product testing and stuff like that. Not much filming at the moment because of this hacking cough, but as that starts to get better, there's a few interesting videos I want to get knocked out. So this was just a quick one to stay in touch. Take care. Thanks for putting up with the horsey voice, and I'll see you soon on the Forensics Detailing channel.